Okay, well, today we are going into a little bit of a different area here on the podcast. So I know we've already talked about mold, we've talked about heavy metals, we talked about EMFs, we talked about them in their own buckets and how they affect our body. So all y'all listening, I know that you have that general idea of how mold, mycotoxins, EMFs, all of those things are not good for you by any way, shape, or form. But we haven't really unpacked how each of those things affects the thyroid directly and then what you can do about it. So my guest today, if you've already heard her intro, Dr. Jessica Peatross, and she knows this stuff. That's why I brought her on for y'all. She can unpack it, and we are really going to go deep into how these things affect the thyroid. Now, I want to start with mold because that's a huge, huge topic. I want to get into Lyme disease because so many people, including myself, have Lyme, and I am not affected. So I want to find out, wait, why are some people really, really affected by Lyme? And some people, they look at a lab like I do, and I go, oh, yeah, I have that, and I have babesia, and I have all these other tick-borne illnesses, and I'm totally fine. And if we have time, we'll get to EMFs. But I want to go in that order and really get deep with this. So, Dr. Jessica, thank you so much for jumping on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Dr. Amie. It's lovely to see you again, and I'm excited to talk to everybody out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to talk to everybody out there because your knowledge on these topics is literally the best in the country. So we're super excited to have this conversation with you. Now, you obviously moved from being we'll call it conventional practitioner into this world of functional medicine. And then you kind of went down these rabbit holes of all these different, I'll just say, things in the environment, toxins in the environment. We can even load EMFs into that toxin bucket, stressors that we're being exposed to left and right, and how it really affects each person's body at a very deep level.
Absolutely. It's, I left the system because I didn't get answers for not only my patients, but myself. And so now I pride myself on asking why until I can't ask why anymore. And, why do you have high blood pressure? Why do you have insulin resistance? All those things are really important. And so a lot of the labels and ICD-10 codes that people garnish today aren't root cause. And so the thyroid is really lumped into that a lot. It's a very sensitive gland, as you know.
Yeah, it very much is. And I've heard you even say, oh, well, canary in the coal mine. And we've heard that expression over and over again, just in this functional medicine world. But when you're talking about a thyroid patient, what do you see as their canary in the coal mine? Is it that they're sensitive to everything? They walk in a room and somebody has perfume on and they're reacting? Or what do you actually see in your thyroid patients when it comes to these other exposures that might be a root cause of some of their symptoms?
For sure, absolutely. There's a number of things. Usually I'll see some environmental toxicities, which obviously are ubiquitous. We can't avoid everything out in the environment. I see some number of pathogens and also some heavy metals. And so a mix of those can really trigger certain people's genetic expression to change, right? Their toxin bucket equals a label sometimes, whatever's in the toxin bucket. And honestly, I see mold do it a lot. Water damaged homes do it a lot. Heavy metals, I see endotoxic bacteria do it a lot. I see Lyme disease do it a lot. Breast implant illness, root canals. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things, and not everything isn't blanket wrong for everyone. People have genetic variations of predispositions that really might lay the groundwork. So once their toxin bucket is full or they have a certain exposure, then it triggers that label of thyroid disease. And they'll say things to me like, well, my mother or father, my grandmother all had thyroid disease. But it's what did you guys eat? What were you exposed to? Did you have similar traumas? A lot of times family units have the same exposures like that. So you may have the same genetic predispositions that are triggered under a similar exposure, right?
Okay. So, gosh, and this is where that overwhelm comes in, right? I mean, these poor patients, these poor listeners right now are like, I got to worry about so much. So I got to worry about what my mom and grandma was exposed to. And now I got to worry about what's in my home. And I got to worry about the lotion I put on. And when I walk outside, getting a tick. I mean, all these different things. How do you detangle it for your
Yes.
patient and just kind of put their mind at ease that it's like, I know it's overwhelming, but here's what we're going to do just one step at a time.
Such a good question. Such a good question. So I will give you the one bucket or catch-all that I see in all of these patients and clients. And it's that I'll say all of them actually, their nervous system is somewhat dysregulated in all autoimmune conditions. It's a blanket statement I can make for everyone with autoimmunity. There's somewhere was a trauma that triggered your body or your mind to feel unsafe in itself or in its environment. And oftentimes that suppresses you speaking your truth or your true voice, which is right where the thyroid gland sits at our throat as well. And so, we have to look at all of this. If you have had some sort of emotional trauma, physical trauma happen to you, and then, that can store in the body. The body keeps the score, right? So we have to go back and look and see how well your nervous system is doing, because there's not a pill to fix everything the nervous system controls, unfortunately.
Right. That's very true. So really, stress, trauma, that's at the core. And then once you have that, you're just more sensitive to the other exposures. Just like how I said, okay, wait, I do have Hashimoto's. So that could have been a stressor. Now, I attribute my Hashimoto's to the stressor of yo-yo dieting because it appeared and I was diagnosed when I was crazy up and down dieting for competitions when I was competing. So that was kind of my trauma stressor. But then again, like I said, I have Lyme, I have Babesia, and I don't react to it.
Well, I will say, I'll take it a step further. You're such a good interviewer, because I was going to say that's the exact next step that people are going to wonder. So when you're in nervous system dysregulation or sympathetic overdrive, flight or fight or freeze, you start to dump minerals out your urine, out of your kidneys. At first you might have high blood pressure and high heart rate, but as time continues, your cortisol gets lower, gets chewed up quicker. The production of it is different, the communication from the brain. And when that happens, your blood pressure drops, you start to urinate electrolytes out and minerals out in your urine. And the thyroid is so mineral heavy on its production of thyroid hormones. You need selenium, iodine, magnesium, protein. You need all these different types of minerals to actually make adequate thyroid hormones. It's a very labor-intensive process for the body. So that can happen to people too, just from nervous system dysregulation. The other thing it does is it makes people a little more sensitive to opportunistic pathogens.
Okay.
So the difference I see in someone who has Babesia or Lyme, because I truly believe most of us have been exposed. If we're to believe that Lyme is a spirochete, a corkscrew-shaped bacteria, just like syphilis was, right? That can get burrowed to brain tissue as a sexually transmitted disease. We've questioned this about Lyme. We think it's passed on in childbirth. We think now no mosquitoes can pass it on. Now, I'm not trying to be doomsday or scare everyone here, because what's the difference between someone like me who has spirochetes in my body and Dr. Amie, who's been diagnosed with Lyme and Babesia, but we're both like, we don't feel it, is a regulated nervous system.
Okay. That's what it comes down to. Wow.
It does. Because, there's this graph I show all my patients. I wish I could let everyone just transfer to everyone's mind right now so they could see what I'm talking about. But it's just like a bell-shaped curve that shows when you're regulated, you feel, but like you belong, you can make decisions. And as you go along flight or fight and into functional freeze, you feel dissociated, numb. This is when you scroll on their phone, you don't want to leave your house. And you really aren't breaking down and absorbing proteins and minerals and nutrients from your food and assimilating them in the body properly because of that.
Okay. So this might be something that we'll circle back to when we're giving people things that they can actually do.
Yes.
But how would you test someone's nervous system? Would you use like a 4-point saliva cortisol test to see if they're dysregulated?
I love that. Absolutely. That's usually one of my very first steps with people. And sometimes I can kind of give leading questions to people that show me. And if I'm really observant, I can see it. Sometimes they talk really fast and they don't breathe properly. And sometimes they're really scared and they tell you how scared they are. And you can see how distrusting they might be because they have a good reason for being scared and distrusting of someone like me who's a doctor.
Yep.
So, sometimes I can observe that, but I love the 4-point cortisol spit test. And I can often see it sometimes in their hormones and their histamine levels too.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. When you're looking at the classic, like progesterone is in the tank, pregnenolones in the tank. Yeah, we can see it in the hormones as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so we kind of look for this certain pattern as docs if people out there have this. You know, I often do it in some inflammation panels just in the blood work too. Things like CRP, it's supposed to be less than 8. This is a non-specific inflammatory blood marker that you guys can get. Things like ferritin, things like ESR, things like homocysteine. And, you know, something like CRP or C-reactive protein is supposed to be less than 3. Mine was 8. And I had, for the first time in my life, thyroid antibodies.
Mm-hmm. And what was your ferritin? I just have to know.
Well, my iron was low and my ferritin was low. It was below, I think it was below 50. It was below 50, my ferritin, which is the storage of iron, right, guys? So it's like my body, and my MCV was 106. I didn't have any B vitamins. And then I wondered why I was so depressed and anxious, and my thyroid wasn't working properly. And I was developing an autoimmune condition in my thyroid for the first time in my life.
Okay.
So,
all right. Then we're gonna leave that carrot dangling and come back to the.
Sorry.
No. This is great because now we just wet their whistle and now they're going. Well, then what do I do? What do I do? So okay, pause that. Put that on the shelf. I want to talk mold. Let's talk mold and the thyroid. Now, again, this is another something that we could say. I know I've been exposed to mold. You know, I know I have. I mean, I've been in a hotel in Tampa that I could literally smell the mold and the mildew, you know, because it's right by the ocean. I think they still had the carpeting from 1985, definite mold in there. And I've walked into homes where I can detect it, but then I leave and maybe I'm affected for like half of a day. But again, we see patients that they have one mold exposure, they are affected for months.
Yes.
So break this down for me of how mold affects the thyroid.
For sure. So first and foremost, if someone like you, Dr. Amie, or all the listeners out there, if you're someone that's like a hound dog with mold or a water damaged building, you walk in and go, nope, and walk back out if you can. It's because you're smart and your body's warning you. If you smell something really pungent that makes you lightheaded or dizzy or, you know, feel like you have a headache, your body is saying, we can't recognize this protein pathogen or this mycotoxin mold spore very well. So we're warning you to get the heck out of Dodge by making it miserable for you immediately when you smell. Okay? And that's people with sensitive genotypes. So there's certain genotypes like HLA-DR. We estimate it's about a quarter of the population. And these people really can't recognize pathogen proteins like Lyme disease or mold spores very well. And those are the people that we call the canaries in the coal mine, that if their toxin bucket gets full, they really feel it. They're kind of warning the rest of the population. This isn't good for anybody's body, guys, right? And so what we see with thyroid disease, you know, most people who are Graves, hyperthyroidism, they have the same genotype, HLA-DR, the same haplotype, I should say, as those who are sensitive to mold. So therefore, it makes me wonder, people who go into a thyroid storm and they have the same genotype and are affected by mold, are they actually in a mold exposure which triggers that thyroid storm because they have a genetic predisposition or haplotype, right?
Right.
There's also a study that was published in 2017. I believe it was in Frontiers, I think was the name of the actual Frontiers in Immunology. And it showed that they call when you have a mold exposure, it triggers a thyroid disease. They call it non-thyroidal illness syndrome because it's not actually the thyroid that's wrong. Your actual gland is reacting to the environmental exposure, right? And the name of this study was non-thyroidal illness syndrome in patients exposed to indoor air, dampness, microbiota, treated successfully with T3. And so what they show here is that people who were in a water damaged building that had a fungal, exposure actually did look like they had a thyroid condition. And they were successfully treated patients with hypothyroidism from this mold exposure. So we know that this happens because mold really lowers immune systems. It causes cytokine storm in the brain. You guys think of that, you think of COVID. Mold was the OG, it was the original one to cause a cytokine storm in the brain. So from the brain, which is air traffic control, it talks to all your other hormones in the body. There's something wrong with air traffic control, talking to all the other organs to make hormones and endorphins and neuropeptides. And there's so much inflammation, it's like a brain on fire. It's why people talk about, I feel like they have Alzheimer's when they're in a moldy building.
Yep.
And this inflammation, this lowered, suppressed immune system, the thyroid is a sensitive gland and is affected.
Yep. No doubt.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pause real quick.
Sure.
Yeah, no, that's a great explanation for it because, I always think of, and kind of going back to what you were saying about that canary in the coal mine person, when they are saying, hey, things aren't right around me. It's funny because everybody else would be like, what are you talking about? Oh, you're just sensitive. Go over there and take care of yourself. You're a hypochondriac. Whereas all those people telling that canary that they're too sensitive are they're like slowly degrading. They're being hit by the same environment that the canary's getting hit by. They don't notice it. So they go about their life, and it might be a year or two later that they're like, wow, I really feel like ass right now. What's happening? And it was a slower process. So I'll stay on mold. That exposure is going to affect everyone just at different rates. Do I have that right?
1000%. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And sometimes, I've definitely, the most challenging cases are when, a husband doesn't react at all. And the wife is like the canary. And, then they don't want to remediate the house because it's an expensive project. I see this a lot. Sometimes they'll be the only person reacting in the house. Sometimes there'll be maybe one other person, which is kind of a lifesaver for them if the husband doesn't believe. So this happens a lot, guys. People react very differently. Some people have very mild to medium allergies, and some people are bedbound.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've both seen it in practice that people just respond different ways. Okay. So then if we're looking at what people can do for the mold topic, you already mentioned remediation, and that is tough. I mean, when one person is reacting and the other person isn't, good luck getting let's say your husband to agree to thousands of dollars worth of mold testing and remediation. But even just on the testing, Dr. Jess, what do you like to do to test? Are you testing the home, or are you testing the individual person? Are you doing both? Because we need to find what their source is. How do we figure this out?
Everyone that comes and sees me in my virtual clinic actually gets a total tox test by Vibrant. And I love that test. It's built into the price because it gives me mycotoxins, heavy metals, and environmental toxicities and pesticides and things. Okay. So I appreciate that test a lot. So I just kind of run everyone who comes to me through mold just to see if their symptoms and their symptomatology doesn't match up to like levels that are off the charts or anything. And then if they have the means, I will often ask them, do you want to get an EMI test to test your home to match up what you have in the home with what's in your body? Yeah.
Okay. And then from there, they can decide what they have to do with their home. Like, do they have to bring in a company, or do they have to move, or what the situation is?
Yeah. And oftentimes, every time I tell them if they're renting, they should just leave. Yeah. Don't even fight it. Just leave. Even though it's a really big pain for people. I'm really sorry. It's the worst part of my job. But, if they own it, can be tricky, because the price is sometimes, it's very, very, so I would say there's no objectivity. It's very subjective. Not all mold companies are created the same. Not all remediation companies are created the same. Not all the knowledge is the same. And so it's a very tricky thing because of all those factors to get the remediation you hope to get.
And it's really tough when it's at your place of work, because it's like, what do I do? I mean, do I quit? Do I find another job? Do I ask to work from home? I mean, mold is, mold can get pricey for a person, basically.
Very pricey. And it really does control kind of, your brain a little bit and your decision-making capabilities, which makes it so much worse for people.
Yeah. Now, are there any, like, easy breezy supplements or any kind of support that a person could take so that they are a little bit more shored up when they're exposed to mold?
For sure. So, there's a couple things people can do. First of all, you really want to make sure you're getting enough minerals, because mold causes such inflammation that sometimes your body really lacks the minerals it needs to fight properly. So high dose minerals, micro, macro minerals are really important. I would say, antioxidants are really important too for people, bioflavonoids, things like that. And then honestly, if the minerals are being taken care of, sometimes I'll put people on a binder here and there if they're not too constipated, to see if we can pull things from the tissue, if they can sweat, or, all that good stuff. That's really important too. You can sweat out mold spores, and it does turn on mitochondria and helps the lymph move as well. So this is a great way to help the body release, because if you can't get out of the exposure right away, which so many people are stuck there, like, I get it. It's hard.
Yeah.
I can't really guarantee whether I can get you better in the exposure. It's really dependent on your genetic predisposition. And so really it's helpful to make sure all your drainage is open, that you can sweat, that you're not too constipated every day, right? That, you can digest food properly. You're not seeing like undigested food in your stool. That means, the mold's starting to stop up some of your drainage pathways, like the bile, which scrubs your food so you see no undigested food in your stool. Your sweat pathway, that can get congested, and people tell me they don't sweat, and that's not normal. Right? If you guys are not pooping, you're not releasing toxins. That's the whole reason we poop.
Yep.
So, we got to have these things working properly, or how are the mold spores going to leave your body when you're breathing them in every day?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
that's really and honestly the best policy against mold exposure, in my opinion.
Well, and I love that. It's doable.
Yeah, it's doable.
Yeah. It's doable.
Right. So if you guys aren't pooping, look into castor oil packs, look into magnesium, right? It's important.
Mm-hmm. And kind of going back to, I'm so happy that study actually gave props to some T3. Maybe you do need a little bit of thyroid support, because if the thyroid is so it's kind of like that back and forth. If you're exposed to mold, the mold is slowing down your thyroid. You have this back and forth dance going on. It's not a great dance. Then if your thyroid is slow, if you're not converting properly, if the mold is pushing up your reverse T3, then even just that low T3 might be stopping you from pooping. And that can make all the difference.
Oh, yes. And mold really goes after the mitochondria and the liver. And, T4, free T4 converts over to free T3 in the liver. And so I see so many liver functions start to become stagnant when people are in mold. Like, say people's cholesterol panel looks just a little askewed or messed up backwards, right?
Yeah.
And that lets me know, the liver makes the cholesterol, and it's just a matter of time before estrogen and progesterone are messed up, because they come from cholesterol. And that whole cascade from the liver's dysfunction, right? And then you can see it in things that you were just talking about, right? Like the free T3 and the conversion.
Yep. Exactly. Okay, Lyme disease. This is another biggie. Oh my goodness. So my assistant, actually, she believes she has Lyme. Her husband has it really bad, and has all of the symptoms and everything. So, and again, back to me, I got nothing. Wouldn't even know I had it unless I tested.
Wow. Well, that's crazy. See how different we are. We have the same organs and systems, but we're very different in our presentation about how certain things can cause a different disease in different people. So, right? So with Lyme disease, right, it's a bacteria, you guys. I mentioned a corkscrew-shaped bacteria. And it really can burrow into different tissue, and form follows function. And this one's really good at disguising itself. It's known as the great mimicker in medical circles. And so really what we think that it's doing is that it has the Borrelia bacteria has some proteins that may be capable of triggering autoimmunity. And the proteins look like maybe some certain proteins in our body. And it's called molecular mimicry. And so the body kind of gets confused, and it's trying to fight the pathogen, but it actually starts to turn on the gland because the proteins are similar. There's some mimicry going on. And there's other things too, inflammation, again, just like mold can do that as well. And so you'll see the immune system just kind of get confused a little bit. And so we've seen it in some studies with Lyme disease too. We've definitely seen Lyme disease cause some thyroid illness, thyroiditis, and otherwise healthy people actually. Hypothyroidism with concurrent Lyme disease is quite common. Many of you guys probably know that out there listening. And it's really by a number of different ways that I'm mentioning. So really, It's important to get the right test for Lyme disease too. I just want to say that as well. A lot of conventional tests are really inaccurate, unfortunately. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but especially the ELISA, which is the first screening test they do, it's like 60 to 80% inaccurate. And then the Western blot is the confirmatory test in conventional medicine. And it misses cases a lot too, anywhere from 40 to 60%, depending on where you are in your Lyme journey.
Wow. All right. Wait. Pause there. So if someone has been tested positive with ELISA or Western blot, then they're definitely positive, right?
Yes, especially if you've had one or two bands, because they're really testing your immune system, not the actual, they're testing your response to the bacteria, right? And so if your immune system's really suppressed or, we know the test is that inaccurate and you have one or two bands positive, it's really important to maybe follow up with a functional medicine test, which tests more bands and has not as strict a criteria as the CDC. It has an alternate criteria that is positive or negative. And so that might be helpful for some of you guys if you've had these symptoms like migrating joint pains and brain fog and hypothyroidism, to really look into some functional medicine testing for that.
Okay. So so back up the Western blot, ELISA, if you've tested positive, you're for sure positive. But if you tested negative, you don't actually know. If you're negative with a 40 to 80% or 40 to 60% basically mistake rate. So what should you do? What functional tests do you like for Lyme?
I love Vibrant's Tick-Borne 1.0 and Tick-Borne 2.0, which, they also test a lot more co-infections and viruses on 2.0. Still, it's expensive, but it's not as expensive as some of the other testing in functional medicine, which can run, you guys, seriously, sometimes $1,500 or more for some people. Like the gold standard is Hijacking, and they don't take insurance. And it's very expensive for people. So, if I can get it for like $650 or so, that's a much better price that I can offer people too. There's also a company called DNA Connections, and they're fairly affordable too. And they're a urine test. Now, before you jump to conclusions about that, they do tell you to go to a sauna or go to lymphatic massage before you test. And then they test the spirochetal parts in the urine. So it's kind of interesting. So there's a number of different ways that you guys can look into this and see a different test and perspective than maybe what you've been given in mainstream medicine.
Right. Okay. I like this. All right. So now the what to do.
Yeah.
Someone gets the positive Lyme, which I honestly believe, and before you answer the what to do, I want to get your take on this. Just like Epstein-Barr virus, I have not found a person yet who doesn't have EBV. Like I'm waiting to frame their face and put it on my wall. Like this is like the patient of the year. Is that the same with Lyme? Do we pretty much all have Lyme?
I think so, because I think that we've definitely all been exposed, especially if it's true that mosquitoes can carry it from larva to full adult in some of the German studies. So I do think that, who remembers a mosquito bite all the time? Like no one.
Yeah,
and
I have 5 of them right now. So exactly.
Yeah. What is the difference between some of those people who've been exposed to compared to other people? I really think it's the toxins and trauma in your toxin bucket. And how well regulated your nervous system is based on the previous toxins and trauma.
Yeah.
So
it's all coming back to that.
It is. I mean, after years of just watching and being objective with people, that's my own personal conclusion, really. But Lyme is a difficult one because you really have to. It's often tied into a lot of inflammation, a genetic predisposition, a lot of toxins and trauma in the toxin bucket, and a lot of emotional abandonment and things too.
Interesting. Gosh, I guess you could really pick one topic and unpack it for hours.
You could.
If you wanted to. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So moving from Lyme to EMFs, and I know that's a huge jump. The reason why I wanted to pull in EMFs today, and yes, we could have moved from Lyme to heavy metals or gone down any different toxin pathogen road that we wanted to go down. But EMFs are just, I think we're still trying to understand them. Like I said to my husband the other day, we had a security system being put in. It's all Wi-Fi now. I'm like, I don't want the Wi-Fi extenders. I want a hardwire in my computer to reduce my Wi-Fi exposure. And he looks at me like, He's been with me for 10 years. He's heard me talk about everything biohacking, and he still looks at me with like, what? What are you talking about? Wi-Fi impairing our bodies? What? And I think that this is a topic that not many people know about.
The studies are fairly new, and you know, science is slow, logic is fast. And it's very true. You know, a lot of the science doesn't start to seep out into public knowledge until about 15 years after it's been published. And so it's really slow for the public to hear and understand what's going on with science, truly. There's a lot of published studies. If you guys want to go type in EMFs and whatever health issue, and then the letters NCBI, that will bring up published studies. And there are some studies about how it affects different microbiota. For example, E. coli and Listeria can grow out of the boundaries of a petri dish if exposed to a Wi-Fi router. Dr. Klinghardt has had some pretty famous claimed published studies that mold really explodes 600 times around a Wi-Fi router, and it's a certain frequency. You know, we are energetic beings. I always say, you know, is the EKG and an EEG measure energy? And so, you know, we don't really think about how these invisible frequencies affect us because we don't feel it in our physical bodies all the time. But I assure you guys, there are some canaries in the coal mine who do feel EMF hypersensitivity, and they are EMF hypersensitive. And they have about 40 to 50 of them have moved to a place called Green Bay, West Virginia, because there's a giant satellite there about the size of 2 football fields, and it is a no radio zone, like radio free zone. So there are cops that patrol the like 5-mile area or so. I don't know exactly how large it is. And they will pull you over if you have your phone on or anything else. They warn you before you get there. And so there are EMF hypersensitive patients that have moved there and healed.
Never heard of this. That's crazy.
Green Bay, West Virginia. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Wait, I'm still absorbing that. I'm being blown away by it. Well, yeah. Okay, that's insane. That's crazy. Yeah. But I do know of people that they are that sensitive. When they walk into a hotel, they're unplugging everything. They're putting up whatever EMF protection they have because they can feel it immediately.
It's so true. I see them too. They're like chemical sensitive. They're histamine overproducing, and they know every smell, and it's wild to me because I'm the exact opposite. So I rely on those people because I don't feel things. I rely on those people to tell me what's not good for me, because if they're reacting to EMF like that, our bodies are also, it's not good for us either. They're teaching us.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the world of EMF blockers, EMF protection, EMF everything out there. I'm confused. I'm overwhelmed. I don't even know what to do. I got little stickers everywhere on every device I have, just crossing my fingers and wishing on a rainbow that it's protecting me. But what is the truth about what we can actually do?
Yeah, right. It's hard to know because there for a while everyone talked about EMF blockers, and now you'll hear people say it's not good to block any harmonies. You should be harmonizing them. So there's these two schools of thought, right? It's very difficult. Right? So, you know, silver blocks it, lead blocks it, certain heavy metals will block it, and certain crystals are said to block it as well too, like tourmaline and things like that. But, you know, really and ultimately, guys, it's learning how to be resilient in your body and to also just be aware. Turn your phone off at night, turn your Wi-Fi router off at night. If you can hardwire things, go for it. You know, don't get on a laptop and just put it on your lap. You know, I mean, we're all guilty when we are in a hurry, you know, but like, I mean, I'm not getting on to anyone, but just be more aware of these things. And if it really, really bothers you, we have to find a way to kind of empty your toxin bucket so that your body isn't seeing everything as a foreign intruder and threat, and you could be a little bit more resilient, because resiliency is health. Really, you know. And I know, I just wanted to say really quick to everyone, there was a study published last year. It's in the Internal Journal of Molecular Science, and it's labeled the effects of 4G, not 5G, 4G, long-term evolution electromagnetic fields on thyroid hormone dysfunction and the behavioral changes in adult male mice. And they say further research is needed, really, but it did show that some of these genes and things and the different releasing of different hormones in the thyroid gland was affected. It altered the hypothalamic expression of these genes, so the brain talking to the thyroid, or the hypothalamus pituitary thyroid axis. So, we've long suspected these things, and just now studies are just now catching up. This was just last year.
And that's exactly what we're going to see. Now we're going to see 5G in 5 years from now, them going, oh, yeah, it turns out that 5G wasn't so good for us. Meanwhile, we've already been exposed for 8 years, and we're already having the health consequences of that exposure. But thanks, guys, for letting us know that long after. And I agree with you. It's going to be, the science is going to be slow, logic is fast. I really like that saying, because we know that's all you need is a few of us chirping about EMFs and those studies that aren't widely. I mean, your average person walking through the mall, you're not going to stop them and be like, do you know what EMFs are doing to your health? They're going to be like, what are you talking about? So these studies aren't out there and widely known yet at all.
Right, exactly. And you're right, and it's going to continue to trickle in, guys. So we already know that 5G is a shorter frequency. That's why they got more towers at shorter distances and up everywhere, and it's not good for us. So, really just be aware of these things. Just learn how to have EMF and sleep hygiene. Keep these things away from you. And if you can move out in the country and you want to, then do it. That's a great way as well.
Yeah. Yeah, but well, we're in the country too, and my house is still surrounded with EMFs because I have to work.
Oh, yeah.
Because I gotta work and I gotta do this. So,
I know.
But I have hardwired at least on my computer.
See, there you go. You're the example of that. That's great. Not everyone does that anymore. It's really important.
Yeah,
So,
baby steps, baby steps. But then, we're going on a trip. I'll be in the car. My husband will be driving. My laptop will be on my lap. So I need to find these different little tools that hopefully they work. Maybe if they give 50% protection.
I have like Defender's Shield a lot. I have one of these. I have a big flat mat that I lay my computer on if I have to have it on my lap, right?
Okay.
And so things like that. They're like Faraday cages that you can put on your smart meters on your house. You can opt out in most states of smart meters, which is probably the highest EMF that you have in your home, is a smart meter. So there are certain things like that everyone can look into too. It's just really, it's being curious. It's not accepting just what you hear online or on the news, and it's looking into it yourself and being curious and asking questions and caring. You have to care about these things and care about your health and have some self-love to really dig into these answers and research yourself too.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. And I love that too. That's a great point. You have to do some research yourself. We can bring all the guests on that we want to talk to you about this, but then at the end of the day, you need to do a little bit of research and then get the things that provide some level of protection. Even if it's not 100%, you're at least taking those steps, just like I am by hardwiring my computer. One step.
And don't wear AirPods, you guys. That way the frequency is bouncing back and forth between the brain, your hemisphere of your brain, and it's not okay. If you must wear them, wear just one, but you will always see me with wired headphones at the gym. I'm going to be that old lady. I'm sorry.
That's all right. We got to bring back those wraps that go around our arm. We got to bring back the iPod so I don't check my messages and emails. I just listen to music, and let's just hardwire in with those wired earbuds.
It's
Go
so
back
true.
to 1985. Let's bring back the Walkman. That's what we really need.
Everyone was happier then, I'm telling you, before all the social media stuff. So.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the perfect tie-in to our ending of circling back to what you said earlier about the nervous system.
Yes.
Social media, EMFs, wired everything, your phone, your email, your computer, your TV, you're being bombarded. Our nervous systems are being bombarded, where we are basically in that sympathetic fight or flight all the time, whether you know it or not. And you're sitting there going, well, I don't feel like I'm in fight or flight. No, you're in fight or flight because you're already thinking about when you can check your Facebook and your Instagram, what you have to do next, what you have to make for dinner, when you have to go pick up Johnny, what your next project is, all the emails that are waiting for you. You're already thinking we are in fight or flight all the time.
all the time. And I think a lot of people don't realize like what that feels like sometimes, because if you've been, running around and had a chaotic childhood, your whole life you might have been in flight or fight. You may have never felt like how it's supposed to feel in rest and digest. And when you do anything foreign, it can sometimes feel unsafe. So sometimes we seek out that chaos. Guys, it's really important to just really be able to breathe and sit still with your thoughts and your emotions, and not have to have technology or scroll and dissociate that way. I've been there. We all dissociated into our phone. Every last one of us knows what that means. So, can you sit still with your thoughts and process your emotions and let them flow through you so they don't get stuck in your body? Can you learn how to regulate your breathing? Anyone who has anxiety, they're not breathing properly. You're not breathing properly. I can promise you. And a lot of this affects your sleep. It affects your cortisol. It affects so many other hormones in your body. So it's really important to kind of learn. I also really like gentle vagal nerve stimulators. My favorite one is the Pulsetto. It's about $200. It just wraps like a little necklace around the back of your neck, and the bulbs sit right on your carotid sheath, right there on your neck where the vagus nerve runs. And there's different levels of vibration. It puts me right to sleep, right to sleep.
Oh, very nice. Okay,
Yeah.
what is that again? Say that again.
It's called the Pulsetto, Pulsetto.
Okay, I have seen that. Yeah, I have seen that advertised before. So yeah, that's great. That's a great tool. Beautiful.
Amazing. Yeah, so things like that. I really love GABA for certain people. Liposomal GABA and L-theanine. I really love SAMe. I love different B vitamins for people. I love high dose minerals for people to ground their nervous system. A lot of people, you need charges for your nerves to fire properly. And what has charges are minerals. And so it really helps to replace those minerals you might have peed out in your urine when you were really stressed out, or when you're sweating too much, or when you were binding too much, right? It's important.
Right.
So this kind of stuff helps you feel safe. And then really, guys, getting into your body, getting out of your mind, learning an exercise, a dance, learning how to feel like a child again. This is the way to regain your sovereignty of your body and your mind.
That's so beautiful. And it's so easy. Oh, and it's free. Well, the little Pulsetto isn't free, but the dancing and the getting back to your childhood and just
Nature.
All those cliche things that everyone's talking about, like walking in nature and grounding yourself in sunshine. It actually works, guys. It actually works.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does. I love it so much. And it's free for everyone. And so sometimes the rat race, the lifestyle we're taught in society, man, it makes us really successful. What if there's so much more? And what if if you don't have your health, nothing else matters. So it's really important to leave that lifestyle and get back out in what nature's source, God created for us, whatever your belief system is, because everything else is man-made fake nonsense. And it does not go with human biology.
And that is the mic drop moment that we can overlay over mold and Lyme and EMFs, because it really starts there. You can buy all the supplements and devices and do all the tests in the world, but if you're not doing the basics,
That's right.
it's not going to work.
That's right, guys.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And really regulating your nervous system, living as nature would intend. Even mold is supposed to be here in the environment. It's the way we're building houses that causes it.
Yep. Yeah,
So.
exactly. Dr. Jess, you've been amazing. This has been incredible and exactly what I wanted to give to my audience. So thank you so much for today's discussion and all of your knowledge. Tell people where they can find you if they're interested in following you, working with you, all the good things.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. You're a wonderful interviewer. So I always say there are levels to this of how you guys can work with me or take my information, whatever you like. So I put a lot of stuff on social media. I know I have a whole team, so I can't do it myself. I would be completely dysregulating you guys. So Instagram is Dr.Jess.MD. There's a lot of free information if you guys like to learn that way. I also have a website, drjessmd.com. I also have a platform where you can do it yourself and learn how to be your own best doctor, where I have a lot of different protocols, and that's wellnessplus.com. And then finally, if you guys would like to work with me one-on-one, that's the highest peak level, and that is drjess.health. And you guys would talk to one of my experts on my team to make sure we're a good fit, and then you would book a package with me. So yeah, many different ways. Thank you, Dr. Amie, so much.
Oh, you're welcome. We'll put
Yes.
all of those links in the show notes so you guys don't have to remember it. And no, Jess, thank you so much for your time today. This has been fantastic. You hit on every point that I wanted to, so I appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.